This is the Philosophy of Redemption by Philipp Mainlander. Of course, I stumbled upon this philosopher by watching a couple of YouTube videos because my guy is mostly unknown and I was fascinated. Uh, and of course, the book, his writings, they were unavailable. They were not translated in other languages. It happened recently. I got mine on Amazon in English. Uh, so I was stoked. I was excited because the videos that I watched on Philipp Mainlander and his philosophy of redemption, let me tell you, it caught my attention. I was intrigued. I wanted to know more. Because, of course, he is famous for the phrase that he coined, God has died and his death was the life of the world. Meaning, in translation, that uh, God at the beginning committed suicide out of boredom, and from his suicide, his death, everything came into existence, including us and everything else in the cosmos. And uh, that is the kind of attitude that I like. This, this dark, unrelenting cynicism or pessimism. I like it. There is a certain vibe, a certain atmosphere from this phrase alone that I really can relate to. I enjoy it, but uh, this is what I have to say in this review. Unfortunately, I have a bit of criticism. I was extremely excited, folks. I was so happy when I got my hands on this book. Uh, I thought that I was gonna read something that would be, uh, like a Bible for pessimists and cynics. I thought this was gonna be on par with people like Emil Choran. And after watching those videos on YouTube, I was ready. My appetite had been uh, stimulated. So I wanted to read this book as soon as possible. And unfortunately, as I continued reading, it just turned out to be a major disappointment. In my case, maybe it is not the case for you, but to me, this book is there are some problems with this book. Now listen, I don't know if the translation is partly to blame. The English translation is a bit rigid, it is a bit lackluster, it is a bit frigid, it is a bit tight, it is unimaginative, it is I don't know how the original German flowed. But I can tell you this, the English translation does not flow. There is no real rhythm. There is no real character or personality in the writing at all. What I'm trying to say is the language used, the prose, the style, whatever you want, it's so, I don't want to call it minimalistic. It's just so limited. It's so barren. It's so stale. It's a drag. This book is it's a chore and a drag to read, folks. Maybe you disagree. That's fine. Uh, the language used here is at a detriment to the book, to the entire book. The way that this book is written, I'm talking about the content, it is textbook, academic, scholarly. It has the vibe of a teacher, just regurgitating, a memorized lesson. There is no bounce. There is no animation. There is no rhythm. It is stale. It is bankrupt. It is, maybe it was intentional. What I'm trying to say is that it's so classically academic, the way that this book is written, that it has this effect of just putting you to sleep, of just boring you to death. This is unfortunate. And you are watching somebody that was so excited for this book. I was desperate. I was desperate to love Philipp Mainlander. I was ready. My body was ready to simp for this philosopher. I just couldn't wait. I just wanted to eat this shit up and be happy with the content. But it's just, listen, because of the way that it is written, because of the stiff, rigid language, the language is constipated. It's so scholarly, so textbook academic that, let me tell you, you will never be able to get any young person to read this book. Absolutely, it cannot happen. You cannot get young people to read this book. You cannot get anybody to enjoy this book. You cannot get anybody to understand what the author is saying. You generally cannot get anybody to just read this book from cover to cover with passion. You cannot read this book and be just, oh yeah. It's impossible. Because, listen, I think I kind of bamboozled myself, because I thought that this philosophical work will be in the same, in the same sort of timbre, in the same tone as this phrase, God has died and his death was the life of the world. I thought that this entire book would be like this. Mainlander just telling us life is terrible, people suck, this and that, all of the absolute truths about life. I thought that everything will be concise and comprehensive and to the point. People are terrible, people are animals, life sucks, religion is a hoax, etc., etc. I thought that this was how this book would go. I thought that he would, like other philosophical works, I thought that this book would just tell us the truths about life and about humanity that we deceive ourselves with. And it isn't so. Let me tell you, after the first 100 pages and after 200 pages, I was just like, what's happening here? I was just not confused per se, but I was a bit disoriented, because what is going on with this book? This is not what I expected. This philosophy of redemption is composed of things like the analytics and the physics and the aesthetics and the ethics and the politics and the metaphysics. These are the chapters of this book, and at least half of them are, in my view, of course, a lot of these are a whole lot of mumbo jumbo, a whole lot of scholarly gobbledygook. This is not what this book should have been. This book should have been vicious. This book should have been feral. This book should have been like the poet Charles Bukowski. This book should have been like Emile Cioran. This book should have been like Schopenhauer. This book should have just been making fun of everything that normies take for granted. Something. And yet, what this book does, it provides a whole lot of academic nonsense, in my humble opinion. I'm not classically trained. I never went to to a college or university, but I am just so puzzled. This book is a turn off. It kills the erection and the arousal of any philosophical fan, of any person that is a fan of philosophy in general. If that person reads this book, they will be turned off, and they will need a break from philosophy because of this book, because of the philosophy of redemption, because of Philipp Mainlander. I just can't remember anything from the analytics. I can't remember anything from the physics, from the aesthetics, from the ethics, from the politics, and from the metaphysics, because the language is so stiff and rigid and frigid and so academically limited. It's so textbook. I'm going to write a thesis on this using all of these, in a way, not pretentious words, but just a language that is stale and dull. There is no pep in the step. The prose is slow as a tortoise. There is no sense of humor. There is no, I don't want to use this word, but there is no riz whatsoever. There is no intensity. There is nothing here, There is, like I said, let me say it like this. After watching a couple of videos explaining this book and this author, I thought that I was gonna read something that would be that would have a comparison to somebody like George Carlin or Charles Bukowski or Emil Cioran or Schopenhauer or any other philosopher that has this ruthless and merciless sense of humor that is cynical and pessimistic and that tells the truth about everything. It's not here. This book feels like schoolwork. It feels like a dilettante trying to write his first philosophical thesis to pass university, the entrance exam. I don't want to be so critical of this guy, because of course, if you do not know the story of Philipp Mainlander, it's something else, because he wrote this book, The Philosophy of Redemption, and on the day that he received his author copies of his book, on that day, he committed suicide by using the copies of his book as a stool from which he hung himself. And that's tough. That's tough. That is impressive, because of course we would all like to cease being, because life is a joke and it's only suffering, but whatever it is, it might be cowardice that prevents us from removing ourselves from this reality. Let me tell you, Philipp Mainlander impressed the hell out of me, because he just said this. Like a true Chad, he said, I'm going to write this philosophical work, and then I'm going to use the copies as a stool, and I'm going to hang myself. And that is exactly what he did. And I'm just like, that's so tragic. That's just so sad. I'm just so, I don't know, I'm just so overcome in a way, because I guess in his mind, And let me tell you, of course, he was an intellectual, a philosopher, high IQ. He was a disciple of Arthur Schopenhauer, of course. Emil Cioran was interested in his work. Friedrich Nietzsche made fun of him, called him a virgin, but whatever. But of course, Philipp Mainlander probably thought that his philosophy of redemption was his magnum opus. This is all that he had to do, all that he had to say. This was it. He had nothing else, probably. This was it for him. And after he was done, he checked himself out of this existence. And that is tough. That is impressive. I am impressed. And the more I read his book, the more I thought about what it was like on the day that he committed suicide. This is not morbid curiosity. I was just like, what was that day like for Philipp Mainlander? This was actually the thing that actually captivated my mind more than his work. When he received his copies of his book, was it in the early hours of the morning? Was it raining? Was it cloudy? Was it in the afternoon? Who brought his books? Was it his editor, his publisher? What was the interaction like? This is what my mind was contemplating. I was contemplating the last hours of this man's life. I don't know what it was. I guess I was a bit sad in a way that he just hung himself, and that was that. Case closed, see you later. What I kept on thinking, what did he do on that day? Did he have breakfast? Did he wake up feeling relieved? Did he wake up feeling feeling empowered by the knowledge that he would kill himself that day? Did he wake up in the morning just absolutely just relieved of any sort of emotion? Was he enlightened? Was he free from all of this? From these disgusting human preoccupations? Was he just emptied of everything? Was he vacant? These were some of the things that I thought about while reading his book. I was just like, what did he do? What did he think about? Did he think about his family? Because of course he had, prior suicides in his family. I think at least two brothers. His mother, maybe, I don't know. Did he think about his friends? Did he have any friends? Did he ever have, an unrequited love? Did he think about any of these things, or did he just, was he an absolute, introvert? Was he just so isolated that he had no relations with anybody? What was that day like? What were those final hours like? This was what preoccupied me for the longest time. Was there any hesitation in his mind? Was there any fear? Was there any regret? Was he hesitant? Was he reticent? Or was he just, it's over, I'm going? Was he super courageous? These are some of the things that I thought about. I just kept on thinking about Mainlander as the person and not as the philosopher. Was he just over life, over people? Was he over himself? Was he just completely indifferent to everything and everyone, including himself? Was he just tired of just living, not depressed? Did he reach that final stage where you're just so tired of everything that this is not even depression or sadness. It's just, you just want to cease being. You just want to stop existing. And maybe Mainlander, maybe this was his state of mind. I mean, let me tell you, it takes a certain kind of strength of character to pull something like this off. It's ballsy. It's just, hey, he was tough. Philip Mainlander was tough. Okay, he just decided, I'm gonna write this book. When this book will be finished, I'm gonna hang myself. See you later. I mean, was this his attitude? Was he bubbly? Was he like, screw all of you people, I'm out of here. Fuck you, dog, I'm out of here. Was this his attitude to this decision, to his final decision? Was he bubbly? Was he sad? Or was he numb and indifferent to everything? How did those last minutes go as he piled up copies of his book and then sat on those copies, put the noose around his neck, and just said, "See you later, suckers. I'm out of here." I'm just. This is what truly impressed me about this philosopher. He had a plan and he went through with it. And if he had no hesitation whatsoever, holy shit, that's tough. If that is the case, Philip Mainlander was tough. Okay, I'm still thinking about this guy. Because he was certainly tougher than me. He was certainly stronger than me, because I'm still here for some reason. He did what he set out to do. And if he was just, in a way, maybe in those last couple of minutes, maybe he was just above everything. Maybe he was so free. Maybe he was so happy knowing that he was going to be free of all of this that he didn't care whatsoever. Maybe he was smiling. I'm not trying to be morbid or sinister, but maybe he went out with a smile on his face. Who knows? I mean, if anybody knows more about his final moments, please tell me in the comments. And I kept on thinking, who was it that discovered his corpse hanging, maybe black and blue, maybe swollen, maybe already, being bloated and rotting? Who was it that discovered Philip Mainlander's body? Was it a random nobody? Was it a friend? Was it a concerned relative? Was it the landlady? Was it the smell? Was it his absence that was noticed and somebody was worried about him? These were the things that I thought about, while reading his work. What was the reaction to his suicide? Did anybody care about this man who obviously suffered a lot and yet still strived to produce something of worth in terms of, not only the intellectual but also the artistic? Did anybody care about this man committing suicide? Did he have any friends? Did anybody cry for him when he was discovered? I don't know. I really don't know why I'm thinking about these things. I guess even though I'm not a fan of this book because of the language, because most of the content to me is just stiff and rigid and so academic, it's so boring in a way. But I think I could relate to Philip Mainlander. I could sense something in him, maybe a kindred spirit, what was it like in those last moments before he just surrendered himself to to the noose around his neck when he just plunged into the eternal abyss and his neck snapped. What was he thinking about? What was his mood? Was he just cheerful? Was he completely empty? You know, I think I can relate to him, I don't know, on a spiritual level, I don't know. I think he's a kindred spirit, and if he found release and happiness in death, then I'm glad for him in a way, because he freed himself from a lot of unnecessary suffering. He took matters into his own hands, because everybody has that one right. Our lives are our own. And he did exactly this. And I don't know what it is, but I hope that he went out with a smile on his face. I hope that he just found, liberty, freedom in nothingness, in death, in the blackness, in the eternal night. I really hope this. I don't know why. I guess I feel bad for the guy, because if you watch some of these videos on YouTube about him, I mean, his life wasn't great at all. Of course, it wasn't great at all, and I can relate to that. But I'll say this, and this is how I'll end this video. Say what you want about Philipp Mainlander and his philosophy of redemption. Nietzsche certainly didn't have a high opinion about him. But I'll say this, and this is mad props for Mainlander. This is a huge compliment. My guy knew how to end a book. Okay, he just knew how to end a book. And the way he ended his book, The Philosophy of Redemption, is just perfection incarnate, or nearly perfection incarnate. This is how he ended his book. The wise man, however, looks absolute nothingness firmly and joyfully in the eye. And this is how he ended his book. The wise man, however, looks absolute nothingness firmly and joyfully in the eye. And that is how this book ends. And I'm being a bit of an optimist here, but I think this is how I actually hope that this was how Philipp Mainlander checked out of this reality, by looking absolute nothingness firmly and joyfully in the eye. If he went out like this, I may not be a fan of his work, but he, as a person, as far as I can tell, he was something else. He was built different, and he certainly impressed me. He certainly left an impression on me that still is alive in my mind. I feel for the guy. He's not really that popular as a philosopher. His work is barely known. The English translation just recently was published in English. This is the first time that his work was actually published in another language that is not German. So yeah, if you want to pick up this book and acquaint yourself with Philipp Mainlander, then yeah, you can. Now is the time. And maybe you will enjoy his book more than I did. Okay? But that's about it. If you enjoy this content, if you want to support your boy, I got a few books on Amazon. The link will be down below. If the link does not work, you can search my name, Griffith Samsara. Thanks for watching. And wherever Philipp Mainlander may be, or may not be, I hope that he found some semblance of just peace and quiet. I really hope, because I feel for the guy, he was a kindred soul. But that's about it. Thanks for watching. See ya.